this has begun for today. It's hard to say this, Leland. I have so many things going on, but I can't think of what to say. You know, there's so many things that concurrently happen, especially when you have a family and you've got work you're trying to get done. But where to begin?
Yeah.
I actually feel really good, because we've talked before about the morning routine. I feel really good how many times I have gotten up at 4:30 in the morning. It's just changing how I feel about myself and the work. To clear the morning and then get started is pretty great.
It is.
I'm giving up things in the evenings that I guess I didn't really need.
I'm a morning person too. In fact, literally today I just got up at 4:45 or something. So
yeah.
Because I just couldn't sleep, and so I got up and started being productive, and that's how I prefer. I feel like I get a full day when I do that. And my tank, I don't know if you're the same, but my energy tank goes like this slowly throughout the morning, and then about 1 or 2, it just disappears. So
I don't feel like I have done this long enough still yet to refer to myself as a morning person. Although today I had a friend who invited me to come lift. He's got some nice weights at his house, and I said, "Are you an early riser?" So we met this morning and lifted and had conversation and stuff, and then now you and I are here talking. But even when I asked him if he was an early riser, I feel like I've not been doing it long enough to feel this kind of affinity with other people that are morning morning.
I was going to say you're an early morning person, but it's a different kind of early morning person.
Well,
you used to stay awake until early morning.
Yes, it's that kind. It's actually kind of funny. There's a learning process when we're trying to change our habits. I have a close friend. I've been talking with him a lot, and he feels kind of alone in his life. He's got a big family, but in his work and everything he's after, he feels kind of by himself. And we're trying to have conversation, and I was like, dude, seek the Lord, right? Like, have you had any of those Jacob moments where this is going to sound like heretical, right, to some people, but have you held the Lord down and said, "You will not go until you bless me," and then the Lord turns and taps Jacob's hip, right, and he walks with a limp for the rest. Now, how I just said that, maybe the inference there isn't exactly right, but there are these moments where I sit with the Lord and I'm like, I'm not moving, I'm not going anywhere. Like, we are here in this moment together. And I talked to him about just getting into the Word and reading the Bible. And I said, it's probably going to taste like kale for a while. It's going to taste like dry vegetables that have not been cooked, which I prefer cooked vegetables because they're soft and they're easier to eat, right? But someday you're going to be eating those vegetables and you're going to bite into some celery and you're like, ants on a log. There's peanut butter in here. Oh, look, a raisin. This is crunchy peanut butter, right? But you've been eating vegetables for a while. And so there is something to that nutrition of the Word, the daily bread that feeds us, and we don't realize that until we have an appetite for it. And when you start out, you don't really want to eat kale soup or whatever it is you eat that sounds very healthy. And then I feel like the same thing happens when it comes to sticking to the routine of getting up at 4:30 in the morning. Because it stinks, but you need to do the things that stink until you get to the good part, and such is life.
Yeah, it's interesting. I gave up, I don't know if it wasn't necessarily voluntary, but it was a process of giving up eating like bread, grain, pasta, and sugar last year. So I gave up sugar and grain, like those two things. And it was definitely not, I did not like it at first, like you're saying. Like, it was horrible because I lived for 30 plus years on, I would eat a big bowl, people that are
goldfish?
close to you and I. Yes, goldfish. No, a big bowl of pasta and with cheese on it. Just pasta and cheese.
Oh, yeah.
And then for lunch, I would have peanut butter jelly sandwiches, like 2 of them all day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like a bunch of stuff like that. And so I was eating like that for 30 plus years. And then finally, I got to a place physically where I just could not do that anymore. And my body was telling me, please stop. So
please stop.
I had to change my diet for health reasons, but it was also like it taught me a lot about like what you're saying, because when you do that process in and of itself, just giving up sugar, if you give up sugar for long enough, you will actually lose your taste for sugar. Your body will change, your body chemistry will change. If you give up sugar and grain, because when you eat grain, your body turns it into sugar. So give up all sugar. It's like the worst thing in the world if you're on sugar. But then when you do it for long enough, grain and sugar, your body starts to change. It starts to change the way it processes food. It then processes, it burns the fat, the healthy fat, instead of the bad fat, which is the glucose, fructose, all that stuff. And then you actually like are seeing your insulin resistance go down. You start losing your gut or whatever. And then, but the other part of it is like your diet. What was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? I tried to eat. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to try milk chocolate. Like there's one sitting here. It was like a party we were at or whatever, or hosting or whatever. And I was like, I'm just going to try one and it'll be good. It'll be like, I'm not going to be legalistic about the sugar thing. I'm just going to eat a piece of chocolate. I put it in my mouth. I literally could not keep it in my mouth. I had to spit it out into the garbage can.
Wow.
Because it tasted like if you take a bowl of sugar, granulated white sugar, and just pour it in your mouth. That's how it tasted to me. I was like, this is crazy. Like, but what I'm going to draw that to is when you get rid of the clutter in your life and you actually like, because the other part of it was when I got rid of sugar, everything else started tasting more tasty. Like I could taste fruit better. It was sweeter to me than it was before. The taste of bacon and eggs and healthy stuff was more tasty. It had more of a flavor to it. I could smell it better. It was weird. And so what I wanted to like draw that to is like when you get rid of the clutter out of your life and you get into the word like you're saying and you're consistent with it like you are with your working out and stuff, and you stick to that, like when you're getting up every day at 4 a.m., the consistency of clearing out the clutter and focusing on what matters, or giving your body or your spirit what it needs, not what it wants, but what it needs, then you actually start, I don't know, things just become more flavorful. And then the other stuff that used to be the clutter that used to be in your life starts tasting like garbage to you. So it's interesting. Just a little tidbit.
I feel like, what you've articulated there with your experience with sugar is one that I would like to experience with coffee. Every time I've tried to get off of coffee and I'm off of it for a few days or whatever, it's like, no. I've not been off, but I've never been off of it long enough to have that point where I go, do I want this? There were many years where I just would not drink coffee because it tasted like this bitter water that was just gross. And then I got a job working at a radio station, hosting a morning radio show. And, what's this? This is a Keurig? What? Oh, look at this sugary thing that I could make. And I didn't even know what a latte was and all of that. And the rest is all history. And, man, that's a long time. And each time I've tried to get away from it, I've not given it long enough, Yeah, no shame on coffee, because
that's a hard one. Yeah, I mean, I did that too last year. I gave it up for a couple months at least, and I've known people that have given it up for years. Yeah, because the Lord asked them to, and now they're actually able to go back to it and drink it strictly because they like the taste, not out of necessity. It's probably the most legal drug in the U.S., right, in the world.
Well, I gave up. I still occasionally will drink, like a mocha or, something that does have sugar in it in coffee. But most, like 9 times out of 10 when I'm drinking coffee, it's just black coffee. Because somebody told me along the way that you're covering up the real flavor, Plus, I had been drinking so much sugary coffee that one of my teeth died and I broke it in half. And I got to celebrate breaking the tooth in half by going to get a root canal. So that was a great way to celebrate, and then getting my first crown. So that was great. But what I wanted to resonate with was the feeling when you said you tasted that piece of chocolate. Or let me say it the other way around. What you actually said was something about how food tasted better, or certain foods. Tastes better,
like
right?
natural foods started, I could actually taste the sweetness of fruit because I didn't have,
Yeah.
the sweetness of sugar in my brain covering that up.
So years ago, I don't know if I've told you this, I did a 47-day juice fast where I got a juicer and we took vegetables and fruit and we just ground them up, and made juice out of it. And all I did was drink these juices, these vegetable juices and fruit juices, for 47 days. Well, I lost quite a bit of weight on it. But my first day back to eating food, first of all, when I hadn't really been eating food, so it felt like it cut my throat because the whole system hadn't been worked. But I bit into some vegetables. I was like, whoa, I don't normally like this. Like, this just tastes different. There's, whether it was zucchini or something else that usually I go, ugh, pass.
Yeah,
Squash, ugh, or whatever. And I was like, has something been rewired in here?
Yeah.
Now I've been on lots of different roller coasters ever since those days. So, but I mean, there are some foods that I will eat. Kale, no, I'm still not eating that. But at the same time, okay. But I get that it's almost like this superpower has been wired into us to rewire in that way. And if we can just get a hold of that has applications in more than just our nutrition. The way that we interact with our families, coworkers, the things that we're not triggered by. I applied for this remote job yesterday, and one of the questions that it asked in there was, how does your faith and spiritual practices with Jesus affect your work? And the first thing I wrote was, how does it not? But then they had a add on to that question. Give examples. It's like, okay, well, when it comes to my kids, I don't trigger in ways that I used to. Even when we're sitting around the house, we have 3 kids, right? And when, especially the 2 younger ones, are just fighting, or even if it's just happy sounds, the youngest one will scream, ah, so loud. It just hurts my ears. And not that we shouldn't, put a stop to some of the extra loud stuff, but whereas before I might have just flipped my lid, I would just gone crazy or shouted or whatever. It's almost like something in here triggers in a different way now. It's like, okay, let's just clear my mind in this moment. I'm safe. They're not attacking me. They're just being kids. And so to me, that was one of the biggest pieces, right? The time with Jesus.
I can testify to that because I've seen you in that environment, and it actually seems like you're not even trying to clear your head. It just seems like your head is just clear, and you're just like, yeah, man, this is life as a dad. So.
Well, and we had one it might have been last weekend. It was just me and the 2 younger kids, and my wife and my oldest were out somewhere. And the 2 youngest, I said, we're not going to watch any TV, like no screens. And then they began this really long chant of, we want to watch, we want to watch. And they just kept saying it over and over. I didn't clock how long it was, but it seemed like forever. But in the moment, I was like, okay, guys, that's fine. You can keep saying that. And I just went back to trying to read a book, or whatever I was doing in the moment. And then it's amazing to watch what happens with kids. Because for any parent who is stuck in the screen time element, which actually it's really kind of funny. My kids like to watch the Incredibles movies. And in the second Incredibles, they have this character called the screen slaver, that people look at the screen. Whether they intended it or not, the parallel to how especially Americans today are with screens all the time. We are slaves to these screens. And they put it in this kid's movie. But, for anybody who thinks that their kids have to have these devices in order for a parent to have freedom, because we've dealt with that a lot, where it's like, we'll just put something on, now I can have a few minutes and I can get my task done. But we're also making addicts of our kids all at the same time. And one of our reasons to not do it, to not take away the screens, has been, well, what are they going to figure out? And my children will say to me, we don't know what to do, I don't know how to play. Like, well, you have a lot of toys in your room that I can give away because we've got a lot of excess stuff that we don't need. And no. And well, in this moment, sorry to make this story so long, where they're like, we want to watch. I just kept letting them do it. And then what amazingly happened is they came up with something to do that didn't have anything to do with screens, and they were totally immersed in it.
Reverse psychology.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess. So, and what they actually figured out to do was my oldest got one of his remote control cars, and the youngest was racing that around the house. And they did that for a long time. It's like amazing what that took up. So, and that applies to, I want to say everything, but I'm sure somebody would come up with a reason why it doesn't. But I think pretty much everything we give our attention to, if we can put up with the parts that suck by saying goodbye to it, there's so much on the other side of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
But it happens in the home. It happens in the work, nutrition, whatever that is. So sometimes I wake up and I go, what can we destroy today in my habits? What can we change just because?
It's a pretty aggressive approach, but I like it.
Well, I maybe I mentioned it before. I finished the Essentialism book. And you're asking, what's the most essential thing? And then you start saying, well, what's not essential here anymore? All of these things that are sitting in my office, and I have a closet in my office that's just got old tech that doesn't even get made anymore. But I've got these cables just in case somebody shows up with this and that device and needs to connect it. I think I still have a VHS player somewhere in a closet in my basement.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, we've been on this, I'm not going to call it a kick, like we've literally just changed to where we are actually, like, I can show you where, like, maybe you can't see it, but we are
It just
selling
swipes something.
Yeah, we're selling, like, a lot of different things, just because, like you said, we have all this excess, and I think we've gotten to the point where we're like, well, we could take it to Goodwill again, but why do that when you can sell it and make some money off of it? So we've just been selling, like, everything from expensive big items down to, like, a t-shirt or a hat or whatever, and takes a lot of patience, but in the end it will pay off if you wait long enough, so I think that's really good.
I love this acknowledgement of the excess, and maybe that came to mind because I've been listening to the band Switchfoot this week. I don't know if you ever listened to them back in the day, they're still making music.
Oh yeah, they're one of my favorite. They were one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, so they've got a song called "American Dream" that I was just playing in my car the other day, and the section of the lyrics says, "When success is equated with excess, when you're fighting for the Beamer, the Lexus." As the heart and soul, breathing, the company goals, where success is equated with excess. Even just that line alone, you start to acknowledge how much do I have, And we've had some changes in our family recently with, where our primary income is coming from. And when I just simply, for my 9-year-old, when I told him things are going to change a little bit, Dad's going to be working a different kind of job. And so we may not be able to eat out as much. We might be able to do this or that, go to the movies or anything. And there's a pause. Are we poor? I'm like, first of all, you live in America, right?
Yeah.
You could be poor in America and still be wealthier than millions of other people outside of here. And he doesn't grasp it. So I'll say that to him, but like they're still for a 9-year-old. And I say, no, like my dad, he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. I'm talking about God, right? You know, and so he's going to provide for us. Things might look different. And I posted something on Facebook the other day that hit me. And it was, a bit of an emotional moment. But it's hard not to feel, especially as an American Christian, like we're just trying to maintain a level of comfort.
Yeah.
And so in my job change that's just happened, I wrote, do I grieve a life lost or a lowered level of comfort maintained? Because, it's easy to be slave to the income as well and feeling like that has to stay. Like, we got to have the income, Now, at the end of the day, obviously we need to take care of our families. We don't want to put all that at risk. But still, I'm confused at times. Am I actually grieving the loss of a job? And a lifestyle, like a kind of life in pursuit of a career that I thought was what I was supposed to be doing? Or am I really more concerned about the level of comfort that I was able to maintain while I had that job? And what does it look like if that level of comfort? So it just forces me to ask all those questions, Why? Why does it matter?
I felt led to break this out. Normally I wouldn't, but I'm going to drop some bars for you. This is from a spoken word I wrote years ago, but I think it's just really appropriate to what you're talking about right now. And there was one line, and it's one of the last lines that I'll read, but it reminded me what you said about fancy cars and all that stuff. So here we go. It's just right in the middle of the whole thing, but feeling shame and guilt, they experienced insecurity. Talking about Adam and Eve, right? Putting on fig leaves, they tried to hide their impurity. Miles and years apart, we still have the same heart. The second we feel insecure, we think modern fig leaves will be our cure. Comfort, good feels, and fake appearances is what we desire. Seeking shelter under an oil of lies, we actually fuel the fire. Driven by pride, we hide ourselves in a Porsche prison. Bound by greed, green paper builds a cell of false freedom. Maybe it's Maybelline that creates a facade of beauty. By comparing ourselves to others, we're enslaved to a false reality. So I go on and on, but it's just all about how we take these, the modern fig leaves of our day. It's called fig leaves actually, but we take these modern fig leaves and try to build a shelter to protect, self-protect, because we're ultimately insecure. But whether it's job, finances, or ministry, or social media status, all that stuff is.
Well, I like that phrase there, the Porsche prison.
Yeah.
You're right there. That's good. Just the ideas I have up here, there are a lot of creative ideas I want to go and do, but the idea of what things should look like and should be like, it's easy to wrap the identity up in that as well. And so if what I'm doing should look a certain way, and until it looks that way, I don't feel confident. It's the same thing in this room here where I do voiceover. I could do a different microphone. I could be in a different recording booth and still get most of the work that I get done. But there have been times where I'm like, I gotta have it exactly like this. When I close the door and I move these curtains around, I have to have that, It's like, yeah, I don't think so. But
yeah, that's good.
Well, what's the most important thing in your life right now?
It's a loaded question.
Yeah. You could say family, I guess, but what's the...
If you're asking, are you asking outside of that, or... Because honestly, that's probably the main motivating factor outside of Jesus. That is obviously the root of what we should do everything for.
So I can't say that I was annoyed, but I did have one of these moments where I text you and I ask, can we record this at a different time? And
and what did I respond with?
You told me that time is family time. And I was like, he's right. And because most of my mode, as an entrepreneur, has been no time.
Yeah,
No time is sacred. If anything, all of my time is available for my work endeavors. Man, I don't think I've voiced it that way before, but that's how I'm going to say it. And I'm not saying that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
But I'm the gatekeeper to all of that. I've allowed it to be that way. If nothing else, I've gotten in the mode of double checking my email to see if a potential client has dropped an email in my inbox at all times of the day. My son and I are gonna go for a bicycle ride. Oh, hey, hold on! I don't tell him to stop. I take a moment and I pull out the phone and I just double check. Is there anything on my email? And then I have this moment at the park yesterday where I took my 3-year-old there, and I'm doing it again. I'm looking at the phone. I'm watching another dad over there pushing his. thank you to God for the ability to observe, right?
Yeah.
And when somebody films us doing our thing, it's even more revealing as well. But to see a dad with his little kid in one of those, the swings that are, like, wrap all the way around the little kid so they can't fall
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I see him holding his phone and pushing the kid, and he's not even looking at his kid. It's just he's just doing the whole thing. Like, how much like zombies have we become? And can I shut the phone off at whether it's 5 o'clock or whatever, or just put it down and not feel the urge to look at it?
That is such a challenge, and I'm not saying I'm perfect in that. I struggle with that too. Like, as a business owner, it's hard to not be on all the time. But one thing that has helped me, at least, I don't know, the principle behind fasting, and that's not even fasting. True fasting is food, right? But the principle behind that is you give up something that your body needs so that you literally need food to survive. You literally need water to survive. But if you give that up for a certain amount of time, it shows you, I don't know, it just shows you a lot of different things. And one of the things that I've seen is, like, one of the things I put into practice really for the last couple of months is Sabbath, true Sabbath, like where now we don't get it perfect every time, every week, but every Sunday or every one day, every Saturday, we'll pick a day of the weekend and we'll shut off our phones, put them in a drawer, and we'll just be. Now, if we go somewhere, we'll take a phone with us, but we won't have it on. But we'll literally shut it off, not in a legalistic way, but literally, if you have it on, you'll start getting notifications and get sucked into it. And so we literally turn it off to shut ourselves off from that portal, basically, of distraction. And, last year, the Lord really told me that two things were public enemies. Public enemy number one was distraction. Public enemy number two is division. Those two things are going to always try to, get us to be distracted and divided amongst ourselves in the body. I just think that's a word for the body. But so we started putting that into practice, and it's been amazing, like, because it somehow helps you. I'm not saying I'm perfect every single day, and I need to rein it in more and more, I think, but it helps you exercise self-control more, if you know what I mean. Like, you start seeing how valuable that is to be off of your phone, and it helps you to just be in the moment with everyone, your family and stuff. So when I texted you that was similar to the grain and the sugar thing. That was a process of giving that up daily, because really through the Holy Spirit and his conviction, through vocalizing that from my wife, like she was instrumental, in her and Holy Spirit, like, that was huge.
Let's drill down for a second on the legalistic note, right? Because you've said that before, and I'll use that language sometimes as well. Like, we're not doing such and such, or we're refusing to do this, or we're trying to do this not out of a legalistic reason. And let's just establish what we mean by that, right? Because we both have an understanding that, like, a legalistic thing would be very religious-y, and when we say very religious, it's making it about do this, get that.
Yeah, so I think for the viewer that doesn't necessarily know what we're talking about, or isn't going to church, or doesn't really have a good understanding of what the actual church is about, I think for them, what I would say, and for anyone really, I would say that legalism looks like a transactional thing. Like, I'm going to go to church, or I'm going to go to church on Sundays so that I can get this out of that, which is a transactional thing. And it's I'm going to do this so that I am in right standing, when the truth of the gospel is that Jesus died and shed his blood on the cross so that you would already be in right standing. And it's from that right standing, or that righteousness, that you are able to say, no, like, I want to live my life and pour out my life for you. I want to pour my life out for my community and my friends. And so I'm choosing out of that, the revelation of the gospel and the revelation of that love that he has for me, that I want to lay my life down for my friends, my community, because that's love, to lay your life down for each other. And so it's that revelation that is the relational aspect. That's the opposite of religion. Religion is actually what killed Jesus. But relationship is what truly sustains just a healthy overall lifestyle. So what I mean by religious is I'm not cutting out the phone because I think that that's going to make me in right standing with God or my wife or my kids. I'm doing it out of love, and love is the motivating factor, not religion or,
So,
you know.
yeah, so we're still physical beings, right?
Yeah.
So we're still going to do things. We're going to make choices to do things for whatever reason. And maybe what we've been talking about throughout this time is the change of habits. You're not going to see a new habit form unless you consistently do a thing.
Yeah.
And so we're not saying it's out of a legalistic or religious reason to earn right standing. We already, as a believer, you already have right standing. But I have these moments where I'll be sitting at my desk thinking about the season of life that I'm in, because my wife and I are choosing to do some things right now that look kind of stupid from the outside, but because we believe we're following the peace we have from the Lord, we're walking in faith on some decisions that we've made. And I sit just in the quiet going, should I be doing something different right now? And then the thoughts will come to me. It's like, yeah, but unless I have a living sacrifice for the Lord to give him, there's not going to be any kind of response to that. Right?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not, it's hard to talk about this sometimes and not sound like they give this and then get that. But there is some at least parallel element to that idea, because even just you and I and our friendship that we've grown over the last 5 or 6 years, or 4 years, 5, whatever the years are, we disagreed on that earlier. But there are ways that you and I have earned the right to talk to one another that we didn't have before. So in that sense of relationship with the Lord, maybe we don't want to use the word earn because that's loaded, but there are ways that he reveals himself to me, not because I just been like, show me your glory now. You know, we spend time together. In so this morning, I'm in Ephesians 3, and I'm kind of walking through 3 verses, verse 8, 9, and 10, and there's just, in English it's 3 words: bring to light. These are being brought to light. It has to do with the mysteries that are of Christ. But in the Greek, it's the word it's photizo or photismo, something like that, bringing things to light. And I'm just sitting there, and I almost did nothing but read the verses over and over in 2 or 3 different translations, and then I look up the Greek word and I start reading what the definition is, and I didn't get very far. I didn't have to. And then he shows up in that moment, and it's like, oh, there really is a new way of being. You are unchanged. You are utterly changed, not unchanged. Hopefully you're changed by the gospel, but you are so changed in a moment when you see you thought it was this way, but when light is shed on a thing, wow, I'm no longer the same because of it. So we carry something, and we carry someone that working with us, through us, that has the ability to shed some light on things and raise the awareness of other people. And in doing so, and even before that, it happens in me with the Lord. And so I wouldn't, that didn't happen on day one. I mean, I started saturating in the Word in June of 2019. I mean, I know the dates because that was a marker for my life. In June of 2019, I was like, I will now saturate in the Word of God. I will eat it like I'm eating vegetables from the freaking ground. I hate vegetables, but I'm going to eat it. And then what I described earlier is my experience. All of a sudden, I'm eating a sweet treat. I thought I was eating vegetables for so long, forcing it, not out of like if I have to. No, because I know enough people who have experienced the presence of the Lord, who have learned some things about life and how God wants to speak to them, that I believe it's possible. And because I believe it's possible, I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep doing it, even if I don't feel like it. And that's what I'm saying. So my body doesn't feel like walking in faith right now. It feels like going and doing something totally different. But because I'm offering this to the Lord, it feels a little bold for me to say, he will bless me. But if I'm not giving him something to respond to in the relationship, am I even making myself available to be blessed? I'm adding questions at the end because I don't want to sound like I'm the scholar, because we're learning in all of this.
There's a lot in what you just said, and I think the first thing I thought of was like he uses the wisdom of what is it? I forget the verse. I was trying to look it up on my phone just now, but he uses the wisdom of the kingdom basically to shame the wisdom of the world, right?
Yeah.
And there's wisdom. The beginning of wisdom is what? Fearing the Lord. Mm-hmm. And by walking in faith, you're showing that you're fearing the Lord. And then if you go into what you just mentioned, the Beatitudes, like, blessed are those that are hungry. Blessed are the pure, they shall see the face of God. Mm-hmm. Blessed are, like, you're not just saying it without context, right? There's context to what you just said. You will be blessed. You will, because you're seeking him. And there's, sorry, this is a lot, but it came into my head around the same time. But last night we were watching, who Corey Russell is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was here at a church in town, same one that we're going to be at in the summer, if you know what I'm talking about. And he was preaching, and we were watching it online because my wife and the kids were not feeling well. But we were watching it online, and he talks about, he was talking about certain attributes that move the heart of God. And he starts it with not much can move God. I mean, if you think about what the scripture says about him, and this is what he said in the word, it says that he's sitting on the throne, and he is surrounded by the most magnificent creatures that look the most beautiful, and they're all praising his name. He is seated above all things. And yet, like all those things. And what Corey talked about was like, as he's gotten older and wiser and more like deeper in relationship with the Lord, there's not a lot that impresses him, like the lights and the smoke and this deep spiritual moments you have. Those things don't affect him as much anymore. And he's like, that's interesting because that's the same with the Lord. But in the scripture that he talked about, and I forget where it's at, maybe it was Malachi, but he talks about how it says in the word that there's a few things that do move the heart of God. And one of them is a broken and contrite spirit before him. And the other one I can remember is just what he talked about, like basically like this need for God, this not just hunger or desire, but this desperation for God. And so if you find the scripture, let me know. But like, it was just incredible because I don't even know where I was going with that, but it's just what you're saying, like what you're walking in, what we each are called to walk in, like that faith. That faith is that desperation for him is what moves his heart. And so if you place yourself in that space, in that headspace, and in that heart space, he will move on that and breathe on that. So I just think that's really cool, significant.
Yeah, it's Psalm 51, 16 to 18.
That's it. Yeah, what is that? Read that to us.
Yeah, let me pull it back up. I was just trying to find a way to show it. For you do not delight in sacrifice, otherwise I would give it. You do not take pleasure in burnt offering. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, God, you will not despise. By your favor, do good to Zion, build the walls of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
I mean, is the word humbling yourself? Is that what we're talking about here, or are we talking about another element?
No, I'm saying like just having a heart. Like look at the person I thought of is Hannah, in the Word, who is literally who. If you're watching this and you don't know who that is, it's this woman in the Word that is literally like ugly crying. The only way I can say it is the best way I can describe it. Is she was ugly crying, in public, like makeup running. I don't know if she wore makeup, but makeup, all of that, just hair distraught, ugly crying over wanting to conceive a child so much so that she told the Lord that she would dedicate and give up her child just to have a child. That's desperate. That's desperate hunger. And the Lord heard her cry. He gave her, who was it? I forget who it even was. It was the guy that was in the, it starts with a Z maybe.
You're talking about Samuel?
Samuel, that's it, an S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Samuel.
Samuel.
Depends on where you're from, I guess.
How you pronounce it in the original language, right? So the Lord gave her Samuel, and she dedicated him and gave him up when he was like a child to be.
I know how much,
in the temple.
man. That's a
insane.
crazy one. How young, and then the ownership that we feel, even of our own kids, especially at that age. I mean, rightly so. We should, they're our responsibility. But to surrender that child.
But even the love like that she had for that child, because it was the only child she was given. And so she was so desperate that like that heart, that's what I'm talking about. If we have that heart before the Lord, then.
And that makes me think of the seeds that can be planted in a child from when they're really young, right? Because if we plant that kind of seed of love, even if you only influence a child from the first couple of years, the impact that has down the line for them is pretty epic.
But here's where I'm going with all of that is that I've been watching, like, I'll see random stuff on social media about building your video, because I'm a videographer, so it comes up on social media, right? Building your videography business. If you're not doing this, that, and the other, then you're stupid. If you're not staying up.
If you're not doing this in 2026, you're failing.
Yeah, or like, even people talking about building your brand, building your business, like, growing it, scaling it, all this stuff, and it can get exhausting to think about all that. It's really good wisdom to scale and all that stuff. I'm not saying anything against that wisdom. It's wise. But I think what it's missing is exactly what we just described. Unless, that mindset is focused on man and mammon, right? That mindset is focused on money and time.
Money, yeah.
Mammon or money, yeah. That's financially focused. Like, I want to get rich so I can do nothing. Whereas, like, if we have in our business and for the purpose, like, the end goal is not to retire, but the end goal is to receive a crown in heaven, to give back to the King of Kings, then if our focus is the desperation of Hannah in our business for the sake of the kingdom, then, like, can you imagine that kind of desperation? Like, Lord, like, show me these business people that I'm working with. Show me what they need. Show me what give me a good word for them. Give me a word of encouragement. Anything, Lord. Like, I want to fast. I want to pray. I want to bring life to these people that I'm working with, so that you, Jesus, can have kingdom impact wherever we go and whatever we do. Can you imagine the amount of kingdom success? And it does not look like worldly success, but that's where my mindset has been shifting from what I've been seeing on social media. Obviously, I look at that, but I'm like, no, I want to see this through a lens of, so I want to apply those same principles that I'm hearing about, the wisdom, to, okay, how can I apply these principles so that we can like, expand this for the kingdom and bring the most glory to Jesus,
So there's two things. I want to come back to the why, not being the money motive, but also, man, my head's all over the place on things. I'm just going to come to the thing that I remember, because I feel like this applies to what you were just talking about. So this morning I'm meeting with a friend, and we were together for a different reason, to hang out, and we were lifting. And then we start talking about his business. And like, I've got basically two sides to my business, and one of them is my primary, and then the other is one I'm really trying to grow in, and it's videography, like you. And I start talking to him like, yeah, I'm spinning this up. That's not where my main time is, but I'm really inspired here to do this work. I want to jump in. I want to do it, but I don't have such and such ready to present to you yet. Like, I haven't built a show reel or a demo video where I can show you. And he's like, Eric, I don't need any of that crap. Like, I know you, and so, oh, okay. There's something about that relational element that I already have built up with him, that he just trusts me. And in the age of AI, right now, we use these AI tools for what they're useful for. But with so much this has already been happening for like more than a decade, with what social media has done and what digital means have put between humans, and we're just ramping that up. And the ability for a person to connect with another person is going to be even more vital. So if I have a back door into the work that doesn't look the same as everybody else, I think I just need to take it. And so, I don't know, the way you were talking there really connected that to me. It's like, okay, I don't got to do all the things like the shorts and the reels are telling me. If you're going to do this kind of business, then you need this, you need this, you need that, you need that. And like, I'm just talking to my friend who's got a small business who needs some help, who needs some work done. And he's like, I don't need any of that polished stuff for you to sell me. Like, I'm already buying what you're selling. Essentially is what he said to me.
There's two things. I'll go back to one that you said earlier. The father has the cattle on 1,000 hill, right? Mm-hmm. The cattle on 1,000 hills. Did I say that right? Anyways, he's got that. And so if he has that, and we truly believe that and truly trust in that, we would never, ever, ever be stressed about finding income, because he has never, I can attest, and I've been there where I've been stressed, like, oh Lord, I don't know. I know I've seen you move in the past, but are you going to do it? But he always does. Like, always. Never have we gone hungry. Even when I've been hungry, it's usually been on purpose. But the other thing I was going to say is, and this is like the principle that I've been applying or attempting to apply to my business since I started a few years ago, and that's Matthew 6:33: seek his kingdom and righteousness. Seek first his kingdom, the kingdom, and his righteousness, and all of these things will be added to you. Well, what's all of these things? It's everything he lists in Matthew 6 before that, which is food, shelter, clothing, water, all the necessities. All the necessities. That means that we don't necessarily need a $5 million house, and we don't need that. Not necessarily.
Well, you don't, but I mean, I'm just kidding.
we don't need that. Like, we don't need that. What are the needs? The basic needs are food, water, shelter, and, and the reason behind that is our focus is not on this world. Our focus is on the kingdom.
Well, my kids don't care about any of that stuff, right? My son at the table last night, Dad, can we go for a bike ride?
Yes.
And I look at my wife and I said, should I go back and do a little bit more work in my office? No! These kids have been waiting for you.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's the kingdom. That's the childlikeness that he talks about in the word, like, become like a child, like, just have fun, like, do the things you need to do. But actually, I think we should have fun while we do those things. And there's the 60-40 principle I told you about before, but the 60% that is actually enjoyable, we should actually have fun with it. And I'm not saying every day is perfect, but I think that whatever we do, it should bring us life, and we should be bringing life to whomever we're around. So,
well, I remember that other thing I was going to say too is, you were talking about, or at least implying, you make as much money as you can. Like, it's the profit motive. I mean, there's still an element of that, that we need to earn so much money to pay these bills. So that, I mean, even the concept of like, you earn this much money, so you have the freedom to go and do this, those exchanges.
But what I'm talking about is, this is what I've been walking through and challenged in my own life. Where is my focus?
Yeah.
And as we've talked about in these past ones, I went away out of the country for a while, and that helped me shift from going this direction of focusing on, I need to do this, this, and this, and this to build and strategize and flesh out my business so that I can be successful, so that I can one day have enough money to do nothing, so that, and I wasn't necessarily thinking that way, but I was going down that track of like, my focus was all on the business. Yeah. And then when I went, away, it helped me shift my focus to, okay, the Lord's going to take care of my business. I can trust him with that. So I know that I still need to do work on my business to make it function well. I still need to pay bills. I still need to do all these necessary things. But I want my main focus, my main motivation to be kingdom driven, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, actually, until we're just talking here, that I really thought about leaning into this idea of what we're talking about. Not that I haven't tried, that God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. Like, so he's a trillionaire, right? He's beyond that. There's no end to it. And to really believe that, and then he will provide for us, allows the emotional weight to just go. It doesn't mean it's not going to press in at times, and I'm going to have some thoughts,
Yeah.
Take those thoughts captive.
Take those captive, yeah.
A mentor was talking to me about the weight on the creative work. If the creative work is what is your primary earner, if the weight on it is like, I have to do this work or my family does not eat, that, just crushes it. It creates, I don't know, something in it that when the person on the other end who hired you or who might hire you, because you're trying to pitch yourself to them, they go, it's good, but there's just something off about it. I'm going to hire somebody else. But the whole time you were like, I've got to make this work, But if I can just walk in this booth here as a voice actor, or if we can sit down to edit a piece or plan a shoot that we're going to do in peace, because we know he's going to take care of us,
I think that even in that, like, you can find joy in the creative process, even if it's for, like, if you're saying, like, I've got to do this because I've got to make money. But, like, if your focus is truly on kingdom, you already know he's going to provide it. Like, the pressure comes off. And so then you can be like, okay, how can I make this better for the client? How can I make this? And you can constantly improve what you do in your craft. Mm-hmm. And then you can rest in that, knowing that he's got you and that he's going to put you where he needs you. The Lord's going to put you where he needs you. And so many stories I've heard of people that have climbed the corporate ladder, they've gotten up to here and they've reached the very top and they've been successful in the world's eyes, but yet empty in their heart and in their soul, really. And that just goes to show you every single time. It goes to show you, like, that's not everything. And so if we're truly kingdom, like, led by the motivations of the kingdom, of seeking his kingdom and his righteousness first, we're always going to be full. We're going to have tough times where we just need to encourage ourselves, but we're going to be full to the point where that creativity will flow, and it'll be a lot less effort than we would if we're, like, white knuckling it, like you're saying. So I think that there's a kingdom principle even in that. So
you ever heard that Footprints in the Sand poem? It's a classic one. And
there's like one set of footprints, but it's not yours.
So I was just looking it up here. The poem doesn't really matter to me right now, but it's more the picture that pops up.
That's it.
You see the side-by-side footprints, and then at one point there's footprints that are by itself, and the poem is saying something about, almost like praying to God, saying, like, hey, where did you go? Did you just disappear? Did you leave me alone by myself? And essentially God is saying back, no, that's where I carried you. Those are my footprints.
That's great.
Through that season. And so, but even if we come back to the idea of legalism, this is not, do this, then get that situation from God. But am I actually putting myself in a position to be carried so that there's one set of footprints? Or am I so obsessed with doing my part that even while God is holding me, I'm like, let me put my feet down. I'm going to put my feet on the sand. I'm going to make my mark. Because I feel like sometimes that's the way I've been. I've been obsessed with that. It's almost like there are times where he's trying to carry me, but I'm like, no. I'm going to do something here. I'm going to do something here too. And then I run out ahead of him, and then not that I could actually run faster than God, literally, but it's like, I just try to get ahead of him. I think it's like, oh God, we're going in this direction. Okay, here I go.
You know what, that gives me a beautiful picture of like parenthood, of when like a toddler is, you're trying to hold the toddler because they're not safe or whatever. Like you can see that they're obviously not safe in the street, so you're trying to pick them up so that cars don't run them over, and they're just like, no, let me down. I want to get down. That's what that picture is. And it's like funny because as a parent you can be like, this is actually the best thing for you. You don't know it right now. And the other beautiful part about that is where I'm at right now is I'm actually learning, like, yes, he carries you through seasons, but then there's a point where it becomes a partnership with the Holy Spirit. And if you want to even think about it in the terms of business, when you think of a partnership in business, it's very much ebb and flow. There's communication, there's disagreement sometimes, there's iron sharpens iron moments. If you think about just our friendship, you and I, we've had all of those moments, like the communication thing, like you expressed earlier, you didn't really like the fact that I couldn't do it on a certain day. That was disagreement. But there's this, but when you actually, like, when you and the Lord actually come together and you're talking about these things, it's forming and shaping you but he wants to partner with us, and he wants to be like, what do you want to do? What do you think? What do you think about this? Like, the Lord actually wants to know that. And I think somebody needs to hear that, whoever's watching this, but somebody needs to hear that. Like, the Lord wants you to know that he wants to know what you want to do. In the safety and confines of him holding you in his arms to protect you from traffic. He wants you to know, once the traffic has passed, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And he'll lead and guide you in that. But it's a partnership. It should be a partnership of, like, this is what I want to do for your kingdom and your glory. Like, can we go and do this? And then if you have peace with it, like what you're saying, if you're walking in faith with it, dude, he's just going to blow the doors open. It might not happen right away, but that's also another thing I've been processing, is the first thing in 1 Corinthians 13 that describes love is what? Patience. So we just have patience with one another.
At least on the partnership element, I always have liked the quote from John Wesley, and I don't know if it's right. Do you call him a revivalist or if he's just a theologian or what he was? But the quote I've heard is, and I was just looking it up here: God does nothing but in answer to prayer. So, yeah, God could.
What is prayer for those that are watching?
Well,
I'm asking, what is that?
From me, it would be conversation with the Lord. That's a big part of it. It's not just, the Nicene Creed or whatever the things are that people can, or the Lord's Prayer. I mean, I still say that, but so in relationship, and so God could choose to do some of this stuff on his own, but he chooses not to, because he wants us. He wants relationship with us, and so he wants to do these things, like you said, in partnership together. And I want to be available for that.
Yeah, same.
So, but it can be hard, because there are people who have businesses that seem to have a system, and they work their system, and it seems to work. So am I doing something wrong here? So it's hard not to let that creep into other things,
Yeah, and even in that, though, like everything I told you about, like looking at it on social media, I do think that there's value. Like, I was looking at social media of this guy that does real estate stuff, and I don't do real estate stuff yet, but if I ever did, I'm actually looking at what he's doing, and I'm like, how can I apply that to where I'm at and the clients I'm working with? Yeah. Because it's really good. Now, I don't agree with his ethics or morals or stuff like that, but I look at his work and I'm like, That's impressive. Okay, how can we take that and apply it so that it's life-giving to the people I'm working with, so that it brings their product, it elevates their product, and if you can build the kingdom that way, you're helping people build their brand, and if they're, if the Lord is moving on their heart, they're wanting to expand the kingdom as well. So it's like you're blessing them, and you're being, you're blessed to be a blessing, or whatever that is people say. But truly, like, let me be a blessing to someone so that they can, experience the Lord in a different way.
Amen.
I don't know. I'm just talking at this point.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. Thank you for saying yes to this. That's it for today. Later.